We are going big for our fantasy football coverage this summer. If your league has not done it yet, your draft here is you're in luck because we have the ultimate fantasy football expert joining Compas right now. Of course, we're talking about the great Michael Fabiano, a senior fantasy analyst for Sports Illustrated. Fabs, how are you? And how are you doing this fantasy football? I mean, we're getting to the nitty gritty. It's coming up.
Been busy. This is the crazy time of the year, and then it'll slow down in 2024, basically. But yeah, it's been good. I've still got 4 drafts left, starting on Monday. I've got 2 on Labor Day. I've got 1 on Tuesday, 1 on Wednesday, to round out, I think, 13 or 14 leagues. On top of all the stuff that I do for work, I've also got to manage a whole bunch of fantasy leagues. But you know what? I could be doing worse things, so can't complain.
There's a special fantasy league that I've heard of where you're with the Miz, you're with Seth Rollins. What's that league like?
So that is my celebrity league.
Okay.
That I've been running for a few years. And then there's another celebrity league, the Alice in Chains League, where, we've got Mike and Duff McKagan, Michael Bublé, Jerry O'Connell,
Wow.
Jerry Cantrell, Mike Inez, lot of fun guys. It's fun to play in those leagues because, those guys are, my friends, and we trash talk all the time about what matchups we've got, who's going to beat who. And unfortunately, Mike beat me in the Alice in Chains finals last year, and he never beats me, although he'll tell you otherwise. Those leagues are a lot of fun, and ultimately, we play for charity, which is the best part of it.
Yeah, no, that's completely awesome. So, Fabs, if somebody had the number 1 overall pick in their fantasy league, who do you think they should go with? Christian McCaffrey or Justin Jefferson, or does it kind of just depend in which league format you have?
Well, league format's always important. I mean, in a standard league where you don't get points for catches, you're probably going with running backs more in the first round. But the wide receivers are kind of taken over the running backs as the most valuable position. So Justin Jefferson's my number 1 pick. McCaffrey's probably no worse than 3 or 4, though. I'd go Jamar Chase second. Running backs are going to be drafted at a less frequent rate in the top 2 or 3 rounds. There's still going to be a lot of them, but people are not going to just singularly focus on that position anymore. In fact, I've been going with a lot of wide receivers in my first 3 rounds, which is something I never did before. But the way that the trend is leaning right now, you could still get some pretty good running backs in the early middle rounds.
Yeah, no, of course. And you know what really intrigues me is the second year wideouts. I feel like there's a lot of really good second year wideouts. So if I put you on the spot right now, how would you rank these 4 guys? Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Christian Watson, and George Pickens. What do you like about these 4 guys?
I'd actually rank them exactly the way you listed them. Drake London's also in the mix there too. Drake London would probably be 3 on that list for me. Garrett Wilson had a good year as a rookie. He didn't have a great year. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year. He had 3 really kind of meh quarterbacks. Now he's got Aaron Rodgers. Olave was very good last year, but not nearly what he can be in this league. Hopefully that rapport that he is gaining with Derek Carr will be beneficial to him. Michael Thomas is also healthy, at least for now. And then you mentioned George Pickens, who, he's got Deontay Johnson to contend with there, but he's going to pop in a lot of weeks. And he's a super athletic type of guy. I think Kenny Pickett's a big time sleeper, and those 2 have gained a pretty good rapport dating back to last year. And Christian Watson, I mean, which guy are we going to get? The first half guy that did nothing, or the second half guy that turned into Chris Carter? I mean, we'll find out, but he's the number 1 from a fantasy perspective. I also like Romeo Doubs, though. I think Romeo Doubs could be a nice bargain down the stretch in PPR leagues if you're not focusing on wide receivers, which you should be. But if you can get him as like a wide receiver 5 type in the double-digit rounds, I think that could pay dividends.
Okay, no, I completely agree. Fabs, let me ask you about Bijan Robinson. There's a lot of hype coming out about him and everything. How do you expect him to do? And are there any other rookie running backs that you're kind of keeping an eye on?
Bijan is definitely the top dog. He's a first round pick. I've seen him go 1 overall in some mocks, which is crazy. But I mean, who knows? Saquon Barkley, was an elite running back as a rookie. So was Zeke. And most running backs in the last 10 to 12 years who've been drafted in the top 10 in the NFL draft have been top 10 rookies among the running backs. And we've seen it with Zeke and Todd Gurley, and I mentioned Saquon Barkley and many others. Adrian Peterson. I think the only guy who drafted in the top 10 who didn't put up a top 10 season as a rookie was CJ Spiller. So that's going back a little bit ways. So Jahmyr Gibbs is moving up too, although I don't know that the hype is so warranted in PPR leagues. He's going as a 3rd round pick, but Dave Montgomery's still there. Not saying I wouldn't take Jahmyr Gibbs, but I'd rather see him as a 4th round pick. If somebody wants to go out and get him, that's fine. But he's moving on up. And honestly, a lot of the other rookies just ended up in bad spots, right? I mean, Zach Charbonnet landed in a bad spot in Seattle because they have Ken Walker. Devon Achane is at best the 3rd running back in Miami. Or maybe he sneaks into the 2nd spot during the season. Jeff Wilson got put on injured reserve. But in terms of those rookie running backs, like there's just not a lot of guys who ended up in spots where you can definitively say they're going to get touches. Even Charbonnet was a 2nd round pick. We don't know what his touch share is going to be. We don't know what his workload is going to be because he's got another really good running back ahead of him in Ken Walker.
Yeah. Fabs, I cover the Chargers, and a lot of people are high on their offense thanks to the addition of offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. Are you buying stock in the Chargers players? You have Herbert, Ekeler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, I'm Austin's a good buddy of mine, so I'm always in on him if I can get him. And he's been the best running back in fantasy football 2 straight seasons. As for Justin Herbert, I think last year was kind of the anomaly. I don't think that's going to be what happens again. He was hurt. He had the rib injury. His offensive line wasn't great. He had both of his starting wide receivers hurt at different points in the year. And so it kind of fell apart for him. His ADOT was real bad. He's now going to end up being the guy that I think he was the year before. And that is, one of the top 5 or 6 quarterbacks in fantasy football with Kellen Moore at the helm, assuming his receivers can stay healthy. And Keenan Allen, I've drafted him all over the place as a wide receiver too, normally getting him at the end of round 2, the beginning of round 3, somewhere in that area. Mike Williams, we hope he bounces back from what was a disappointing year. And he certainly has the talent to do that. And Quentin Johnston, he's a late round flyer at best. I mean, somebody would have to get hurt for him to really come in and make a consistent fantasy impact. And he's still behind Joshua Palmer too. So I don't know that he's going to come in and be superstar right away. And then, Gerald Everett. Gerald Everett's a decent tight end too at a thin position. And then hell, I even like Cameron Dicker, the kicker, to break out this year behind that offense. Hey man, I know kickers don't get any respect, but I may as well mention them. You got to start one, right, in most leagues.
Hey, honestly, last year they needed him twice to make game-winning kicks, and he went in there and he did it. So I feel like sometimes the kickers get a bad rap, but
they always do.
Yeah. But I think Cameron, he has ice in his veins. I mean, we asked him after the game, like you hit that game winner? Yeah, it was just another kick, and you're like, no, I know, but it was the game winner, and he's just kind of like, yeah, but it's fine. So we're like, oh wow, we're really impressed with the way he just has ice in his veins.
Yep.
I like waiting on quarterbacks, but what's the real sweet spot? I don't want to be too late on quarterbacks either, but should I wait until the 9th round and maybe roll the dice on an Anthony Richardson, or kind of what are your thoughts on the quarterback situation?
You can go either or. I've always been a guy who's waited, but this year I have changed that a little bit, right? So if I see Jalen Hurts on the board in round 3, I may take him, or Josh Allen. I'm probably not going to give Mahomes because he's a 2nd round pick. I don't want to go to a quarterback that early in a non-super flex 2 quarterback league. Obviously things change if you have to start 2 or you can start 2. But for me, if I wait, I don't mind having Dak and Richardson or Kirk Cousins and Geno, and I can play the matchups with those, with those players. There's some good. I like Kenny Pickett a lot. He's my favorite sleeper at quarterback this year. Does Russell bounce back? Does Aaron Rodgers bounce back? Last year was a really bad year for quarterbacks overall. At the top, it was good, but other than that, a lot of guys disappointed, including Tom Brady and Rodgers and Russell, and the list goes on and on. But obviously, Brady's no longer in the mix. But Russell and Rodgers, let's see if they're in new situations. Rodgers in New York, and Russell now with Sean Payton as his head coach. So we'll see if those guys can bounce back. But the position is not one that you have to focus on early in a traditional draft. You can wait, like you said, and still get 2 really good quarterbacks who might not be elite, but together can give you some pretty good numbers on a weekly basis.
Fabs, honestly, you said Tom Brady is out for right now. What if somebody puts up the bat signal and he says, you know what? you need greatness back. San Francisco could come a calling, and he might come back halfway. No, I'm just kidding. But
Yeah, I mean, he's part owner of the Raiders now. He's
yeah,
not
oh,
coming
that's
back.
true.
He's
Yeah.
not coming back. He's not. I'd be surprised if he came back.
Yeah, maybe for the Raiders if the Raiders needed him, but
that would maybe be the only scenario, and even that, I don't know if they'd bring a.
it'd be like in semi-pro with Will Ferrell, player, coach, and
right
and owner. Fabs, just real quick, who's a guy that you're really high on that maybe not a lot of people are talking about?
Ken Gainwell in Philadelphia, and they have a backfield committee, so I'm not super high on him, but like I think it could be the best bargain out of the Eagles running backs because everyone's taking Swift and Rashad Penny, and then Gainwell's kind of fallen into round 12, 13, maybe a little bit earlier in some larger leagues, but I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up leading the Eagles running backs in fantasy points. Stranger things have happened. So Gainwell is probably a guy that I like maybe a little bit more than some people. And, there's some deep sleepers too, like Chigakonkwo, who I like in Tennessee, a tight end. And, I mentioned Romeo Doubs also. So there's some players out there that you can get late that I've been targeting late, hoping that maybe my prognostication will come to fruition and they'll be useful assets for my fantasy team.
Fabs, we obviously we appreciate you having you on, but just really quick, a little WWE talk. What have you thought about the product right now? Have you been keeping up, and what have you thought about what they're rolling out? And I mean, AEW is right there competing with them. So what have you kind of thought about everything going on right now in the wrestling world?
Honestly, I mean, I only really follow like my buddies in WWE right now. So, like Colby, AKA Seth Rollins and, Mike and, those guys, like, so I'll follow along with what they're doing. And listen, I don't know that you're ever going to get back to like the greatness of the Attitude Era or even like in the 80s with Hulk Hogan and all of those, big name superstars that we had, Roddy Piper. I don't know that we're ever going to get there again. But I mean, Seth is has made a great statement. He's one of the best in the business. He's a great guy. And I couldn't be happier for his success. Mike's getting into a thing now with this LA Knight guy. And I don't know a lot about some of these wrestlers anymore, especially during football season. Like I just can't watch, Monday Night Football. I just have too much going on, but I'll pay attention. I have a lot of friends who are into wrestling, so I'll pay a little bit of attention and see what's going on. I'll watch some of like the quote unquote pay-per-view. I always watch those on Peacock when they're on. If not live, I'll watch it afterwards. I know Cena's coming back like this Friday for SmackDown
for about 2 months.
I guess today's Friday. That's what happens when it's close to football season. I don't know what the hell day it is anymore. But I don't know that the product will ever be what it was. There are just so many great wrestlers that were around at the same time. Stone Cold and Bret Michaels, Bret Hart. I got my head in the 80s glam bands. It was Shawn Michaels was my favorite. Bret Hart was right up there. Stone Cold. Steve's a great guy too. Triple H. Like, I don't know that we're ever going to see that much talent. And it wasn't even just about like their wrestling acumen. It was like they were great on the mic too. And so are there a lot of really good wrestlers right now? Great wrestlers. Like I think, Colby's a great wrestler. Mike's obviously been for a long time. Roman Reigns is reigned for how many years now as the champ. And I still enjoy a lot of the stuff they do. And they do a lot more acrobatic kind of crazy stuff. I mean, is it Logan Paul, right? That's the guy who's I always get him mixed up. I know one's the boxer and one's the wrestler. I don't pay a ton of attention to them, but I mean, that kid came in and boy, he looked great.
Yeah.
I saw that match he had against Ricochet. I mean, it was awesome. Yeah. It's really impressive to see what some of these guys are coming in doing the high flying stuff. I've always been a fan of those guys.
Him and Seth Rollins at WrestleMania was a great match too.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, I'm really hoping that they'll put Colby against Reigns at WrestleMania next year. But I don't know that they're going to. Like I would love to see.
I think they want to finish the Cody Rhodes storyline with him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, do they bring The Rock back to face Roman Reigns? Like, I don't know. They may want to do that. And that's fun to watch in a vacuum, but like, I don't really care about The Rock as a wrestler anymore. Like, remember when he came back and he won the championship? I'm like, well, what's the point of that?
You screwed John Cena. Like the first time that he fought Cena, you screwed Cena over because Cena really wanted that victory, and you could see it. He was there at the Rock was celebrating, and he's just like there, like, dude, like, how did I lose to this guy? So yeah, it definitely there's been some questionable stuff, but
Yep.
one very last question for you. What have
Mhm.
you thought about Seth or Colby's outfits? What have you made of them when you see them? Are you impressed or what do you what's your thought process?
What's funny is that that is not him at all.
Yeah.
The
I've
the
gained that from
character
some
that
of
you
the interviews
see
that he
is
said.
not he is such a cool, down to earth, chill guy. Um, that's not him in real life. It's the same thing with Mike. Like Mike comes off as this arrogant kind of prick. Like that's the character. In real life, he's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
He's like one of my buddies. So it's funny. It's funny to watch him come out in all these crazy clothes because that was never his stick, before. But it's worked for him.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest with you, when he's in the middle of the ring and everyone's kind of doing the whole chant, I love it. Yeah, dude, it gives
Oh.
me goosebumps because
Yeah.
like that's my friend and he's done so well for himself. He works so hard. Nobody works harder than him.
Yeah.
And it just makes me real proud to see him succeeding in the way that he has. And to be honest with you, it's kind of about time they did this for him because
Yeah.
he's great.
100%.
He's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, a lot of good wrestlers are out right now. I don't know if the WD will ever get back to that like golden age of like the 80s and then the Attitude Era because of just the immense talent that they really had with WCW going sort of like belly up and a lot of the talent coming over. But when I do watch, I'm still entertained. So it's still a lot of fun.
Completely agree. Him, Becky, and Mike are really carrying WWE right now. But the champion of fantasy football was with us, Michael Fabiano. Thank you so much for joining Compas on the Beat. Compas in Spanish means buddy, friend. So you're a compa of the show. We appreciate you so much, and have a great season. And don't try not to get your days mixed up too much. I know there's a lot of craziness out
Dude,
there.
I never know what day it is anymore. Ever. Like honestly, once football season starts, like the only way that I know what day it is there's a football game at night. I know it's either Monday or Thursday.
Well, we
And
appreciate
Sunday I know because it's all football games all day long. So you can't
exactly.
mistake that. The other days I'm like, what day is it? I don't know. It's Groundhog Day every day.
We appreciate you so much. Thank you, Michael.
You got it.